There's an old saying I like. A mile of road will take you a mile. A mile of runway will take you anywhere. Taking off isn't hard, but there are a few key points to remember. First, we always take off into the wind, which won't be an issue on a calm day like today. Second, before we enter a runway, we always make sure it's clear. Check to the right to see if a vehicle is on the runway, and to the left to make sure no other planes are approaching.
Okay, so today is takeoff time, so I'm going to try and take off this Cessna plane that I've got. I've got my bunch of instruments and everything, and I have to look right and left to see if everything's okay. And there's no plane standing on the runway, which is
Check
a
that
pretty
the
good
runway
idea.
is clear.
Look left to check if approach path is clear by using joystick left. Joystick left? How do I look? Yeah.
Everything looks good, no cross traffic. Go ahead and taxi into position.
Okay, now I've got to taxi into position.
Now slowly taxi onto the runway and align the plane with the center line. Then stop your plane just after the number 21.
Yeah, so I've got to follow those instructions. So you use the rudders. I'm going too fast, I think. But anyway, you got to use those rudders to kind of align the plane in the center of the runway, and then use your brakes to kind of just about manage that.
Excellent.
Okay. And let's see how we do
All right, let's do
on
this.
takeoff. I want to get
Apply
an
full
A
power
in
and
this.
I'll walk you through the takeoff as we go.
There's gradations. I'm applying full power on the thruster, which is to my left here. I've got
Use
my
your rudder to
joystick.
Stay on the center line and keep pushing power until you reach 55 knots.
55 knots. How do I reach 55 knots? Okay. So I'm in the center of the runway, which...
Good. Now gently pull back on the yoke.
Yeah.
Pull back on the yoke to take off.
Yeah, I have pulled back on the yoke.
And we're airborne.
Yeah. That's it. That's all it takes to take off.
Line up the top of your instrument panel so it's a couple of inches above the horizon. That'll pitch us up and set a good climb attitude.
Okay.
Focus on flying straight.
So
Use
now-
rudders to keep the runway heading of 210 degrees. Maintain 75 knots and we'll reach our target altitude of 5,500 feet in no time.
Well, how do I maintain 75 knots? Because if I have to climb, then it's going to 65 knots. So I'm climbing to 5,500 feet. That's fine, but I'm doing it only 60 knots, because if I'm climbing, then basically that's my speed, and I've got my thrusters at full. So how do I maintain 75 knots and climb to 5,500? I guess I have to keep the nose down a little.
5,500 feet. You've reached your target altitude. Good job.
Okay, so that was it. It was pretty simple. I still got a B, and let's see why that was. They explained why. Take off and maintain a speed of 75 knots while remaining aligned with the runway until reaching 5,500 feet. So I don't know how to reach 75 knots while climbing to 5,500. I guess you have to kind of keep the nose. I followed the instructions and kept the nose up just a couple of inches above the horizon, but somehow that kind of brought my speed down to 60 knots, and my thruster was all the way up, so I couldn't get any more power. I can't figure what else I need to do to get power, so I'd have to keep the nose down. But if I kept the nose down, then I wouldn't be able to climb so fast. I guess let's try this one more time, and this time I won't try and climb so fast, and I'll try and keep the speed of 75 knots. Also, I think I could do better staying in the center of the runway in the taxiing part of things. I mean, although I got full points for both of those things. So if you see this check for runway traffic and all that kind of stuff is obviously very easy. Position for takeoff, I got full points, but here I couldn't maintain 75 knots while remaining aligned. So let me see if I can get myself. I've got 7768. I need to get across over 8,000 to get an A. So let's try that again by restarting the entire exercise and see how that goes. So you see what I'm saying? This is a little bit like real flying. It's quite enjoyable also. Great way to spend the evening rather than being a couch potato. Now it can be a simulator potato. I think that's a good username actually. I'd better take that immediately.
There's an old saying I like. A mile of road will take you a mile. A mile of runway
Will take you anywhere.
Taking off isn't hard, but there are a few key points to remember. First, we always take off into the wind, which
Yeah,
won't be an
always
issue
into
on
the
a
wind.
calm day like today. Second, before we enter a runway, we always make sure it's clear. Check to the right to see if a vehicle is on the runway, and to the left to make sure no other planes are approaching. Everything looks good, no cross traffic. Go ahead and taxi into position.
Okay, so now this time
Now
I'm going to
slowly taxi onto the runway and align the plane with the center line. Then stop your plane just after the number 21.
go really slowly this time because last time I kind of was quite enthusiastic on the thruster and the plane kind of rushed forward. Now it's not moving forward at all, so I have to kind of increase thrust. I'm doing it literally centimeter
Let's
by
position
centimeter.
the plane for takeoff.
Oh yeah, she's getting upset. Well, I want to position the plane for takeoff, lady, but like when does it move? I'm at... Yeah, it started moving. And so as soon as it starts moving, I cut back on the throttle because I don't have to go really far. And I'm trying to follow this yellow line here. Oh, see? Kind of. Dude. Yeah. Now brake. Yeah.
Not bad.
Yeah, okay. Not bad, but I have to go to the
All right,
center of the
let's do
runway.
this. Apply full power and I'll walk you through the takeoff as we go.
Okay. I'm using rudder to try and keep in the center of the
Use your
runway.
rudders to stay on the center line and keep pushing power until you reach 55 knots.
Okay. So I'm in the center now of the runway.
Good. Now
And-
gently pull back on the yoke.
Gently pull back on the yoke. Yay! We are airborne.
And we're airborne.
Yep, we are airborne, ma'am. Now we have to climb to
Line up the top
5,500
of your
feet.
instrument panel so it's
And
a
have-
couple of inches above the horizon. That'll pitch us up and set a good climb attitude.
How do
Focus
I-
on flying straight. Use your rudders to keep the runway heading of 210 degrees. Maintain 75 knots and we'll reach our target altitude of
210
5,500 feet in
degrees.
no time.
Okay, no, that is wrong. I have, this is 210 degrees. 75 knots. How do I maintain 75 knots? 210 degrees. So okay, now I'm coming up on 210. So my bearing is good. Speed is 75 knots. I climbed like this. So last time I was just in a
Maintain
hurry.
75 knots and climb to 5,500 feet.
So I am climbing because I can see the...
Okay, 5,500 feet. You've reached
Okay.
your target altitude.
I think I should have made the
Good job.
grade A this time. Oh, again B. And it was lower. It's lower than last time. So let's see what went wrong this time. Okay. Okay, this time position for takeoff. So this time I got that wrong. But I also got only 5474 points out of 8,000. Take off and maintain a speed of 75 knots while remaining aligned with the runway until reaching 5,500 feet. I don't know why I didn't. So basically, I lost 150 points there, but I lost even more points here. I don't know why, because I actually did things a little bit better. But I guess let's look in the logbook. Okay, anyway. So the thing is, I'm going to try this one more time and see if I can get an A. And If you guys notice something out there that I'm doing wrong, then maybe you can tell me so I can try and correct it. But yeah, this is what it is. I mean, flying looks really simple. You kind of just grab a stick, but the feel of the aircraft, the way it moves, once you pull back on the stick, it kind of, goes a little sideways. It can yaw a little because actually the rudders should be separate. So I'm planning to get, foot rudders rather than this joystick rudder. So basically this joystick, if you kind of twirl it, it kind of acts as the rudder. But actually the rudder pedals are operated by the feet. So that should help because then the joystick won't have anything to do with the rudder. And so I think that kind of does make this joystick a little bit more shaky and stuff like that. And actually a real airplane should not be like that. But let's see if that does matter. Let's try it again and go one more time, right? Okay, so let's fly. Let's fly. Ready to fly. Yes, we're ready to fly.
There's
Taxi.
an old saying I like. A mile of road will take you a mile. A mile of runway will take you anywhere. Taking off isn't hard, but there are a few key points to remember. First, we always take off into the wind, which
Yep.
won't be an issue
Always
on a
into the
calm
wind
day
because
like
then the
today.
wind flows
Second,
under and
before we
over the
enter a
wings and gives
runway,
it thrust.
we always make sure it's clear.
Yeah, we
Check
have
to the right to see if a vehicle is on the runway, and to the left to make sure no other planes are approaching.
Yeah, how do I do that? Okay,
Check that the runway is clear. Everything looks good, no cross traffic. Go ahead and taxi into position. Now slowly taxi onto the runway and align the plane with the center line. Then stop your plane just after the number 21.
yeah, taxiing slowly is one of the key skills I've realized. Yeah, that's better. This is better speed. I've cut the RPMs. Yeah, so much slower and so much better. Much better this time. Still, I think not really completely centered, but it'll do.
Excellent.
Okay.
All right, let's do this. Apply full power and I'll walk you through the takeoff as we go.
Okay, full power. Let's go.
Use your rudders to stay on the center line and keep pushing power until you reach 55 knots.
Power is full, madam.
Good.
Center of the
Now
runway.
gently pull back on the yoke. And we're airborne.
Now
Line up
I've
the top of your instrument panel so it's a couple of inches above the horizon. That'll pitch us up and set a good climb attitude. Focus on flying straight. Use your rudders to keep the runway heading of 210 degrees. Maintain 75 knots and we'll reach our target altitude of 5,500 feet in no time.
yeah. This time is better. So because my heading is clear, I'm going at 75 knots, and my altitude is climbing just a little bit, not too much, but that's okay. I don't care. I can go easy. My heading's going off a little, but minor, small moves. I think I've realized that just gentle, small movements is what it takes. And 75 knots. 75
Maintain
knots.
75 knots and climb to 5,500 feet.
Yeah, ma'am, that's what I'm trying to do.
Okay, 5,500 feet. You've reached your target altitude.
That should be good.
How
I'm
was a
betting I
nice
get an A.
takeoff?
That was a nice takeoff. She said so. Yes! We did it! Boys, girls, ladies, gentlemen, we did it. Quite thrilling to get it right, but it requires like these micro adjustments and stuff like that. So 8903. Let's see how far short I was. So 6.9, I still got about 1100 points less on the actual takeoff for maintaining 75 knots and stuff like that. So obviously I didn't do it perfectly, but that was pretty good. And our goal was, we're well past the 8,000 points required to get an A. We're 8.9, which is not bad. I'll aim for a full 10,000 at some point. Because if I'm going to be using this for practicing actual flight, then I better get this right here. But I have been told that the simulators, while it's helpful, it can also develop some bad habits, like depending too much on the instruments and not really listening to the feel of the aircraft and the visuals that kind of guide you in terms of how you're flying. So it has to be a combination of both. But like we all discussed in my previous stream as well, that this is really about kind of getting a sense of what flying is all about and what the basic principles are: airspeed, taxiing and putting full power and thrust, and maintaining a heading and reading the compass and being able to do this very comfortably. So that's something that I think you can get used to as you kind of start playing this. I've just been playing this for 2 days and I'm already feeling quite comfortable. Like if I got inside an aircraft, I'd know what things are. I mean, some things are, not all of them, of course, but gradually I hope to be able to learn. I also did some navigation kind of drills today on this, on the training menu, but they were a little bit boring here, like taking off and landing and then doing a solo flight and all that is really good. So next time when we meet, I think I'll be doing a solo flight, the entire takeoff, landing, turn, all of that from the same airfield, and basically that should be interesting. So stay tuned, and we'll keep kind of chatting about what it is like to use the simulator, and hopefully then eventually I'll be putting a GoPro camera on an airplane when I'm learning, and then kind of doing some chatter there, and we can kind of catch up there as well. All right, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys later.